Welcome to the Pascal Forum, where we have the privilege of hosting Mr. Queck, the Chief Investment Officer of A-STAR, Singapore's leading agency for science, technology, and research. Today, we delve into the Singapore's innovation ecosystem and the role A-STAR plays in shaping the future of technology and entrepreneurship. So, Mr. Queck, thank you for joining us today. So, let us start how A-STAR plays a pivotal role in Singapore's innovation ecosystem. So research, innovation, and enterprise are fundamental to our development as a knowledge-based, innovation-driven society and economy. In an uncertain world, our continued commitment to R&D will equip us with the knowledge and tools to secure our future and drive innovations that will improve the quality of life. So Mr. Queck, as the Chief Investment Officer at the Innovation and Enterprise Division at A-STAR, you oversee the portfolio equity and support spin-offs across various sectors in their startup journey through linking them to ecosystem partners. So could you elaborate on your journey of supporting deep tech spin-offs?
Hi, Taeyoung. Thank you very much for inviting me here. I joined A-STAR in 2016, and ever since I've been involved in spin-offs in A-STAR. So every year, A-STAR spin-offs something like 15 to 20 companies, and cumulatively we spun off more than 200 companies, and some of them actually have become successful and raised funding from the VC community and also raise their valuation. So I think what I'm doing now really as the Chief Investment Officer in the Innovation Enterprise Group in A-STAR is that two things that I do mainly. One is manage the portfolio equity because we own shares in some of the companies that we spin off. So we also need to look at how we can maximize the return for A-STAR in that respect. Then the second thing that we do is really to support the spin-offs in their startup journey. So for example, the scientists will start a company, they go out there and then they will connect with partners, with the VC community. And in the early stage of their journey, actually it's quite challenging because they are so used to just doing the science, right? And they are not really plugged or connected to the community. So that's what we do because we are a little bit more familiar, we know we have a network out there and we try to connect these people to the network. So that's how we can actually help them to be successful. And I think one of the perks of being in this job is that you get to connect with all the founders, right? And these are usually very energetic people, they are visionary, every day they work very hard to realize their dream. So in a certain sense, they are really game changers and we are there to really support their journey.
Yeah, I can see that A-STAR really plays like a crucial role in really introducing the nascent stage companies to the ecosystem. Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Queck, A-STAR also plays a crucial role in facilitating the co-creation of intellectual property and capability transfer between public research institutes and enterprises. So could you elaborate on how A-STAR fosters scalable solutions in this regard?
Yeah, so A-STAR is in the business of doing science, right? So I think we have 4,700 scientists within A-STAR. So every day we actually have our scientists working on new inventions. And we have a department within A-STAR called the IP Management Group that help them to file as well as to patent their inventions. And we also have internal sources of funding to kind of like raise the technology readiness level of the technology so that eventually they can become commercial products. Yeah, so so there's a lot of work being done actually at A-STAR to actually help all these innovations come along and finally become good products in the marketplace. And to do this, we cannot do this on our own. We actually have to work very closely with the industry. So we work with the big companies like the multinationals, we work with the large local corporates, people like SIA, ST Engineering for example. We work with the SMEs and we also work with startups. So I think really it takes two hands to clap. So while we can do something very simple like licensing our IP to them, we can also enter into research collaboration agreements with them so that we can work on a research project together. Or we can also set up joint labs with the company. So for example, I think it's announced in the public media that we have joint labs with Applied Materials and many other big corporates in Singapore. So this is how we work very closely with the commercial world, right? The industry, the corporates, to commercialize our IP from A-STAR.
Yeah, it's really interesting how A-STAR and the commercial world can collaborate together to help them grow in the future. So Mr. Queck, could you also share some significant insights and some memorable experiences from your tenure in managing the A-Star spin-offs and connecting them to the dynamic startup ecosystem, particularly highlighting the challenges and opportunities in transitioning technology innovations from the lab to the market?
Okay, I think I'll start with the challenges. So I think by and large, the scientists in A-Star, they like to work on science because they're scientists, right? And to be frank, not many people have that risk appetite to want to do startups and spin-offs. Yeah, so sometimes they have to be encouraged. So maybe I think one example, in the early days when I'm in A-Star, I was working with this team in A-Star to spin off a company. And we supported them in their business plan, we connected them to investors, to a point of time when the investor is ready to invest in the startup. Yeah. But at that point of time, the scientists back out. They say that, I'm no longer ready, I don't want to do the startup. Yeah. So we have cases like this where, so they think they want to do spin-off, but actually when the time is ready for them to spin-off, actually they feel they're not ready, right? But I think this trend is changing because we see that some of the younger scientists coming back from the startup hubs, for example, in Boston or in California, where there's a very deep startup culture, and then they see a lot of these scientists come out, do startups and become successful, list their companies, become multi-millionaire. I think they get intrigued and they kind of get excited. So we see some of the younger scientists, they come back to A-Star nowadays. They also want to do startups and spin-offs. I think some of them actually come out from A-Star, they started their own company and raised different capital, translated the IP into products. Yeah, so I think all these are quite encouraging. And also, I think in Singapore, the whole ecosystem has matured over time. I think you can see a very rapid change over the last 10 years. The amount of capital available in the market for funding startups has increased. Yeah, and all these are supported also by the government, various agencies in Singapore government trying to support that. Yeah, so that is the part that I think, while challenging, I think the ecosystem is maturing, and I think we will get there someday. Yeah.
Yeah, I really do agree that now younger scientists are like really inspired by like their international counterparts, and like Singapore has really like invested a lot and developed like a really good ecosystem for startups, such as like maybe like the Biopolis, for example. Yeah,
that's right.
So our next topic will be on the transformation in technology innovation ecosystem. So at the previous forum, we discussed with Hyundai Motor Group's Innovation Center, Singapore, established in collaboration with EDB, A-Star, and the Singapore government, showcasing remarkable transformation in technological innovation. So Singapore's strong technological capabilities have attracted and anchored multinational companies to establish corporate laboratories, R&D centers, and manufacturing activities in Singapore. So, Mr. Queck, looking ahead to the future of technology and innovation, how can governments and corporations collaborate to overcome challenges, drive economic growth, and shape a better world?
Actually, I would say that this is the bread and butter that A-Star does every day. So what we try to do, other than the scientists doing their research, right, is that actually we have a group called the Innovation Enterprise, which goes out there and talk to the industry every day. And through talking, we find out more about their problem statements, what kind of problems they're trying to address, what kind of tech solutions they need, Then we have this group of people look across the whole of A-Star into different research institutes within A-Star. A-Star, there are like 17 research institutes. So we will try to find what is the science and what's the technology that can address their problem. And if this can be identified, then we will put the scientists together, and then we have conversation. And eventually, this will then result into some agreements. This could be licensing agreement, could be research collaboration agreement, service agreement, for example. And to some extent, I think in the corporate world also, I think they are realizing that innovation is happening every day, right? I think the pace of innovation is actually accelerating. And many of them actually have set up corporate innovation labs, or they have set up corporate innovation group, or even corporate VC groups. And they are going out into the ecosystem and finding what are the innovations out there. Because on their own, they may not actually be at the cutting edge, right? But by having an open innovation framework and working with partners, they can actually, yeah, so some of them actually are also working with A-Star. But I would say that by and large in Singapore, especially the small and medium enterprises, their capacity for absorbing science and research is not that big at the moment. So I think not a lot of companies actually have a dedicated research unit or employ a lot of people in the research space. And actually that's also where A-Star can help, because A-Star has schemes where they can second people to the industry. So they can work 1 year, 2 years with the company, and even at subsidized rates, subsidized by the government. So the government can pay up to a certain percentage of the person's salaries while he's being seconded. Yeah, so over time, I think we hope to be like in the more developed economies like the US, where there's always innovations coming out from research community, right? And then this is actually taken up very fast by, can be the entrepreneurs, by the VC world, or by the corporates. And then that leads to big tech companies being created, right? I think if this leads to some sensible outcomes like that in Singapore, I think it will be very good.
Sorry, could you clarify what you mean by open innovation ecosystem?
Oh yeah, so I think last time a lot of companies, they just do their own research and just look within the company to actually develop the next phase of their products, for example. But I think in the open innovation framework, people look outside of their own company to scout for innovation. So when they find something, they can try to find a way to bring this innovation into the company. Yeah, so it's not working within the constraints of the company. It's looking beyond the company, outside the walls of the company, to look for innovations outside. Yeah, so they could have people in the corporate innovation team to actually be scouts, IP scouts, to look for IP, for example, to license in, or they could maybe invest into innovative companies to have a share of them, and then sit on the boards to learn what's happening outside, in all these very innovative companies. Yeah.
Oh, it's really interesting how companies are now outsourcing perhaps that innovation,
exactly,
yeah. So that you mean to have access to the cutting edge technology available.
And I think this is also because a lot of companies realize that their business could be disrupted by technology. So it could be, for example, the taxi business, right? And then you have the likes of Uber and Grab coming in, and the whole business model is disrupted. Yeah, so I think companies realize that they may actually have to look outside, not just at the technology, but sometimes it's the business model, right? How they can change fast enough to actually keep up and not be disrupted.
Okay, thank you so much. That's quite interesting. So the next topic is on global Asian node in technology, innovation, and enterprise. So with Singapore aspiring to become a global Asian node in technology, innovation, and enterprise, what do you perceive as the primary opportunities and challenges for the country's technology entrepreneurship ecosystem in the foreseeable future?
Yeah, so I will talk in the space of startups, right? Because that's the space that I'm most familiar in. I think Singapore-based startups or deep tech startups actually have a few challenges. One is talent, right? Because I think Singapore is a very small country. We just don't have enough talent. And also I think the entire risk-taking culture is still not taking root in Singapore yet. This will improve, but I think it's going to take time. Then also when the startups scale up and become bigger, right, they also may not be able to find enough talent within Singapore, right? And probably at the point of time when they grow to a certain size, they have to actually go outside there to some of the larger economies to actually look for talent in those countries. Yeah, so talent is one challenge that they will have. The second one is actually the small size of the Singapore economy, right? They cannot be a truly big scalable company if they just confine themselves to Singapore. Yeah, but the opportunity is that actually there's a lot of help in the ecosystem. For example, the government will pay the new startup money, the founders' money, to do a startup. I think up to $50,000. And then there's they need some kind of matching from the founders. But I think the thing is that the government is giving you money to do a startup. There's also a lot of government agencies actually pumping money into the system and even doing venture building. So for example, Temasek now, they have an arm called Zora. And Zora actually now is going to the universities and A-Star to look for IP where they can build a venture around it. So so with all these mechanisms and all this support from the government and the ecosystem, and also I think Enterprise SG, they have offices all over the world, and they actually give help to the startups to actually bring their business to different parts of the world. So with all this help from the ecosystem, I think it's actually quite supportive of the entire startup ecosystem. And also, I think some people say that it's actually quite easy to start a company in Singapore, right? You just can register a company within one day, and then you can actually look for money from angels because there's a good angel network in Singapore. So these are the so-called these are the good thing about being in Singapore to do a startup. But of course, the challenges are those that I illustrated earlier.
Yeah, I really agree. I think what the Singapore government has done is effectively managed to lower the barriers to entry of starting a company, and and I agree that it's really imperative that these companies expand such that their market is not exclusively restricted to Singapore but also to other countries.
Yeah. So a lot of the people that we talk to, like the VC community, right, to the Singapore startups, they have to think global from day one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So our next topic is on emerging technologies and the future of education. So for students aspiring to make a positive impact through innovation, what key skills or mindsets do you believe are essential for success in the ever-evolving field of technology and entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I would think mindset is more important than skill sets. Mindset in the sense if you want to be in the innovation economy, if you want to do a startup, I think you need to be prepared to take risks, right? Because risk-taking is part of entrepreneurship. So the mindset is important. So not everybody can be an innovator, right? Some people are more suited than others, but if you are taking the innovation journey, of course, it can be quite exciting, but maybe more challenging than becoming a doctor or a lawyer, right? Because those are more, if you become a doctor, you have a certain kind of path and just follow it and become a successful doctor. But I think entrepreneurship is a bit more, the journey can be a bit more curvy, and there'll be challenges along the way. So I think a resilient mindset is also important. You must be prepared to take some setbacks. And I think also you need to be optimistic, right? Because the journey is quite long and you'll not be smooth sailing. So I think you need to be an optimist in the first place. Yeah. So I think there can be multiple pathways for someone who wants to go along the journey of innovation, right? I mean, you can be start as a scientist, or you can be a product developer, or you can be even a marketer. Because all this, let's say in a startup company, you need to do all this to be successful. And I think if you are the founder, then you actually you need to encompass all these qualities. Not maybe just you alone as a founder, but the founding team, right? I think you need to be able to develop product well, you need to be able to sell it to the market. So all these skills are important. And I would say that something that's very common in the startup world is that the founders will look for mentors to mentor them. These mentors will be people who are more experienced than them. They have really done the startup before, or they have deep domain expertise in certain area. So they look for these mentors. Basically, one is to help them kind of got the learning curve very fast, right? And secondly is to leverage on this mentors network to reach out more to other resources that they need. Yeah. So this is something that I think maybe students should also keep at the back of their mind, because along the journey, you want to actually tap on the experience of somebody who's a bit more experienced in the area that you want to pursue. And I think sometimes there's a skill set of being able to talk to older folks in a way that you can establish the kind of rapport, and in the way they want to kind of return it back to you and help you. Yeah. So I'm just saying that in the startup world, there's this thing, mentorship is quite common, and you can actually bring it back to when students are pursuing the higher learning in the university or whatever, right? Yeah. So for example, I see one of our younger entrepreneurs, A-star scholar that came back to do his own startup. He actively reached out and then tried to ask the people in the startup company for advice. And one of them actually is a serial entrepreneur who has really built and sold a few companies, right? So the kind of learning is really immense. You can learn from somebody like that. You can grow up your learning curve very fast. Yeah. So yeah, so that's what I'd like to share about this.
Yeah, I really agree, and I believe that like there's many ways to reach the final goal of entrepreneurship. But then ultimately, the two main factors are whether or not you're willing to take risks,
Yes.
and secondly, is like taking advantage of like the resources available. May that be like the more experienced or older folks who can like distill like invaluable like knowledge to the next generation.
Yes, that's right.
So thank you so much, Mr. Queck, for sharing your valuable insights with us today. It's been enlightening to learn more about Singapore's government's perspective and A-STAR's role in driving innovation and technology development. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.